Okay, this is still the Intelligent Human Voice Podcast Network, and I'm recording from my second favorite place in my penthouse loft. It really is a loft, but I'm moving soon. But my kitchen area is it's a commercial kitchen. I mean, it's approved by LA County for Dude Can Bake. So I just brought that up for the legitimacy of Dude Can Bake. But I like the kitchen because the kitchen is it's my loft area. If I can describe it to you, it's an open space with really high ceilings, concrete cement ceilings, blocks. It's probably like 22 feet. I created this, you call it an oversized bunk bed that gave me more space near the entrance. I mean, where the windows are on the brick exterior of the loft. But the kitchen is an open space. It's just an open space. Currently, I have boxes that I'm preparing because I'm preparing to move in January. Currently, there's some cartons and boxes that are off to the right. There's my massage chair over to the right as well. And it just has open space. So I always find myself coming to this open space right by the counter and talking to myself. And I said, I'm going to stop talking to myself. I'm going to start recording some of this stuff because a lot of this stuff is good. And so I recommend, if you don't have a recorder, and here's the thing, everyone's phone has a voice recorder on it. However, that recorder is tied into, you have to update it and whatever. It's still a good tool, but I like having a separate recorder from that. I use that I use the recorder on the phone to either create alarms for myself, voice alarms, or I use it to create messages for myself. But this Tascam recorder has two linear mics. I think I've talked about this before. It has two linear mics sticking out from the right and the left, so it picks up stereo. And depending on where I'm at, I'm used to speaking and talking and singing on the microphone, so I can always hold it at a distance where it won't peak. So I said I'm gonna create. I had this going in my head, and I was like, I'm coming up with some good stuff. How come I just don't hit the record button and call it, the kitchen journal or something? So here we go. This will be the first kitchen journal. And the subject I was talking about should have some music in the background, but it's like 12:40 in the morning. I want to respect my neighbors, unlike some people. I want to talk about the art of listening. Now, the art. Let me. Why listening? Why I'm picking this subject is because I like to talk to people. My business is talking to people. I'm in the business of speaking. I'm doing this podcast in the professional realm. You have to know what you're talking about when you're talking to people and you're looking for vendors to work for you. So I'm comfortable with talking. But I'm also very in tune with listening to people, and that comes from a technique that I learned in a wellness workshop, and it also comes from my childhood, because I wasn't much of a talker. Some people might find that hard to believe, but if you know me, and you've known me, or you knew of me in my childhood, I wasn't much of a talker. I was actually the quiet kid. There's a couple of reasons for that. I come from an era that they taught, you speak when you're spoken to, and be mannerable and have etiquette and act like you have some manners. So, I felt the best way to stay out of any kind of trouble was just to shut up and listen. I obviously I'm a kid. I know nothing, so I'm just not going to talk. And that was my thought as a kid. I just didn't feel the need to. I was shy. I was really, really shy. I was kind of timid, and I was observant, and I don't know how I made friends, because I didn't go out of my way to try to make friends with people, even in kindergarten. And there's a story behind this kindergarten thing that I remember. I don't think I've ever tried to. I've gone out of my way to make friends, but I'll strike up a good conversation, and from that usually comes, yo, we got to hang out sometime, and it's usually a mutual thing, either with coworkers or people I meet, and but people have always gravitated towards me, so I'm not the kind of person to just be out there talking and tell all my business or whatever. But if it's interest in mutual vibrations, energy, then I'm a good listener. And as a child, when adults speak, when you become in tune with that kind of conditioning, self-conditioning. It's not like no one told me to ever shut up. Actually, my mom's would sometimes when I would sing or, be banging on the table trying to make a beat. Because I had to get this music out of my mind. It wasn't like we got punished for talking, It was more like, shut up. in a higher voice. Just shut up. So I'm grateful of that, of learning how to listen to people, because when you listen, especially as a child and adults are talking, you really, how do I put this? You take them for their word. If they say something, you believe it. How do you not believe? But see, I was the kind of kid where when I got to the point where, the teacher or professor, whoever would say, hey, if you don't understand, you got to say something. So I start saying something. I start saying, I don't, I hear you, but I don't understand what you're saying. I don't get it. You're like, oh, okay, well, let me explain like this. Anybody else don't get it? And everybody else would raise their hand and go, yeah, no, we don't get it. But no one was willing to say something. I look around, come on. So, but from that, I started to ask more questions. Now, here's where the talking and the observing and stuff came into play. I had a lot of questions as a kid, as a child, growing up, evolving, being around all these people I knew, people I didn't know, a lot of relatives. Was always, our family is huge, so there was always, it never a dull moment, seems like. There's always kids around, and then my family, my immediate family, always something going on, some whatever. I don't know why I got off into that. But with so much noise and everybody always talking, I just felt the need to just be silent. And if I had something to say, I would say. But I had questions, and I start asking, questions, and I wasn't settled with the answers I was getting. Because a lot of the answers sound far-fetched. They didn't sound confident from the person who I was talking to, or it just sounded like straight up bull. I was like, bullshit. And so my source of information came from the library, whether it was the school library or the local library, Oakland, North Oakland, Temescal Library. That was the closest to my home. I spent a lot of time in libraries all the time, reading, finding those answers, for the questions I would ask about life or things or religion or whatever. If I received an answer from an adult and it didn't sound on point to me, then I didn't settle for it. I went looking for that answer and then came up with my own answer. So that's how it's always been for me with listening. But what I realized was that not everyone and not most are listeners. People I have observed being in a conference room with professionals and people not knowing how to listen. Adults, we're talking about adults being in a room and either talking over other people, not giving people their time to speak, not even knowing how that works because they're so busy, their brain is so preoccupied with not listening to what someone is saying that their brain is already coming up with an answer or a solution to it without absorbing it. And I don't know what to call that. I'm sure someone has a label for that, but I just observed it a lot. And so within my meetings that I started having on Mondays with my staff, it was the staff, my staff, security, the event planner, and any of the secretaries for the schools. So we would have this meeting, and I would go around the room after the fact. Actually, I would start first. I would start with the schedule. Actually, I would talk about the weekend. Hope you had a great weekend. Just to have a Monday breakup. Mondays are tough for people, and having a Monday meeting about what's going on for the rest of the week, to me, is how I've always done things. It was very effective. So I would say to folks, I want you guys to, I don't want to repeat myself. I don't want to repeat the schedule. So I want you to really listen in, because I don't know everything. Neither do you. And if you miss something, it's going to affect our whole workflow for the week. So that's how I was able to get people's attention. And so we would go over every detail of an event that happens throughout the whole day, and confirm that with whatever secretary was in the room or event planner on all systems or go. We had everything. We ordered food, whatever. Setup was turned in. Boom. Done. Repeating this every Monday was perfect. It was perfect. People got into listening. A few folks came up to me, hey, that's a great approach. I love the way we do our meetings, because, no one's over talking each other. We're all listening. Because I said, yeah, I don't want to do a meeting just to be hearing someone talk. What's the point in that? You can talk about that on your lunch break. You can talk about, you can joke and all that. We would joke in the beginning, but more so, I wanted to really reinforce to people, like, look, what we talk about on Monday is going to predicate for the rest of the week. And that way we've got our jobs done for the rest of the week. Everything else is left up to Mother Nature or mishaps with mechanical and electronic devices, stuff we can't control. So I'm not worried about that, so long as we have our communication and you are listening to all the details in the meeting. And I always left an open door for my staff to say, hey, stuff comes up, stuff happens. Please communicate to me via phone, text, two-way radio, email. You got 5 to 6 different options. There's 8 of you mofos. You got 2 pair of eyes. There are no excuses for nothing. So long as you keep the communication open, and I'm here, you always have a job. You have my back, I got your back. That's how you get someone's attention on listening to you and directing things. But I've now, so I'm talking about an organization I worked with that was with schools and the whole nine. Now I worked with this other organization, which that's when it was the worst case scenario I'd ever seen in people that just could not and did not know how to listen. Now the person that was leading, the problem is that the person that was leading the meeting liked to talk and liked to hear themselves talk, and that was a problem because you have to keep it short, you have to keep it clear, you have to know what you're talking about. Otherwise, everyone sees that. They see the confidence, you show it on your face, you see it in your speech. And to have a meeting on a weekly and not cover all grounds, like confirmations of follow through, what to do next, that's because I'd never seen that before. But it's like no one in the room was really listening, because we would be talking about it like all through in the hallway. I'm like, what? Why are you asking me about this right now? Were you not at the meeting? Did you not take notes? It's right. No one had a notebook. No one was writing anything down. So I'm getting a little excited because it's bringing back emotions for adults, people who are distracted and they don't even realize it. Your diets are important. This is all going to go back to diet, how we function, how our brain functions, what's wrong with us, what's right with us. It goes back to your diet. What are you feeding your system on a daily basis? What are you feeding your system in the morning that you can have a open, refreshed mind, of not foggy, not, to be clear, in clarity, to have clarity, to be open to listening to a situation which it's going to help you and everybody that you're working with. It goes back to diet. Hey, I discovered that I'm sugar sensitive. I'm a sugar sensitive person. It was inherited. Yes, if I bake a batch of cookies, I'm going to eat the entire batch. I'm going to eat it all. But someone who's not sugar sensitive, they'll probably eat a piece of a cookie and just put it away. I'll probably stab them in the hand if they left a cookie on the counter. Are you kidding me? Give me that cookie. Oh, well, I'm only going to eat a little bit. I eat the other one later. Well, wrap it up. Put it up in some foil or something. You can't just leave it out like that. It will get stale. It won't be as good. Are you kidding me? I bring that up because I believe it's like a child who is hopped up on sugar in the morning. I think there's no difference in the adult brain, and probably more of it. People don't even realize it though. And here's a double whammy. The double whammy podcast from the Kitchen Journal on the Intelligent Human Voice Podcast Network with the PatMan. Here's the double whammy. The kids might be on sugar, and that's bad enough. What sugar does to the brain is the same thing cocaine does to the brain, and morphine, and anything else. Well, actually, those two. That's enough. Wired up. And the crash is unreal. You've seen the kids. You've seen these kids in the grocery store. You've seen them in the schools. When they come down, it's unreal. It is unreal. I'd never seen it before in my life, but I'd seen it. I witnessed it for myself for 8 years. The sugar crash and the sugar highs just popping around like popcorn. But the most interesting are the adults. The adults don't even realize it. And I observed it because I observed it early on and didn't realize it. I thought about, at the time, I was thinking about the caffeine, because everyone had coffee, some form of coffee. And I'm like, well, from what I recall, what I've studied, you know, coffee actually dehydrates you. So for every cup of coffee, you're probably supposed to drink like 2 or 3 cups of water just to rehydrate yourself. And the average person is thinking, oh, well, there's water in coffee, so I'm getting my water. No, that's bean juice. You're getting bean juice, and then you're going to add sugar to it. You're going to add some cream to it. So you've already received your daily dose of sugar in that 1 cup of coffee. Now imagine the average person is drinking like, you know, a 16-ounce giant cup of freaking coffee. You add caffeine, sugar, whatever medication that they're taking, chemicals from the toothpaste, fluoride, mouthwash, body deodorant, body wash. You add all these chemicals together on a daily rotation basis. You are constantly chemicaled up artificially, and you wonder if there's anything wrong with you. Oh yeah. See, I've known something's been wrong with me since day one, since out of the womb, while I was in the womb. Couldn't put my finger on it though. Could not put my finger on it until Dr. Kathleen's book. And I'm still talking about listening here because, like I said, your ability not to focus and listen. And I'm gonna give you a few tips. I'm gonna give you a few tips on what I've done to what I've learned and then applied in listening to, either if it's just 101 or it's, you know, a group of people or a room full of people, how to listen. One thing, you should just be focused that before you go into this meeting with this person or a room, whether it's a 101 or a room full of people, you have to prepare yourself. You should not be running into a meeting, you know, not prepared, not having a pen, you know, not turning your phone off. You should have enough time in that meeting to get yourself prepared for that meeting. So that's one thing. Because if you do that and you write everything down and you know what you're going to talk about and you're able to come back to the bullet points, then you're open to listening to the conversation at hand without any distractions. That's the first tip. Come prepared for any meeting. Prepared. Just come prepared. Whatever that means for you. Secondly, give the floor to the person that's talking. And question comes up, or if it's a meeting where they've said, hey, you know what, hold all your thoughts until the meeting's over, and then I'll, you know, raise your hand, let me know because I can't. Then write down your you should write down your questions if you have one, just so you'd be able to listen and not be focused on, you know, something else. Or you can just raise a hand and maybe that person can answer it real quick and just, you know, get that out of the way. All the meetings are different. Everybody's meetup is different. My thing about giving these tips is that when you meet with people, that you start to train yourself on listening, on shutting down everything else and actually listen to what people have to say. Because you're going to find two things that happens. You're going to find a lot of truth, and you're going to find that people can feel when you're listening to them and when you're not. Real story, true story. I played a little trick on someone and they didn't know it, and well, I won't even call it a trick, but the person I was interacting with, I was pretty much done with hanging out with them. And it's because I wrote a list of people in my life to which I felt were negative energy, and I didn't need to be around them, and I didn't want to be around them. So I put it to the test. Me and this person went out to lunch, and then I'm telling them this specific story, which I knew the details, but I was making it like I was making it up, whatever. And the person, they're not listening. This is just their thing. But when they talk, they expect that you're listening to everything that they're saying. So this person wasn't listening. I knew they weren't, because it's impossible to unless you're trained at it, it's impossible to multitask your brain like that, to be able to look at a phone, be distracted by a text, hear the conversation that you're talking to the person, waiting to hear the person call your number for your food, watching stuff on television. It's impossible. So if someone, unless you say, hey, I need your undivided attention, they do not have your undivided attention. Trust me. So this person, I was real specific in what I was saying to them, and they started expressing anger, and I was like, why is this person getting angry? Why are you getting angry? And so I'm not getting angry. I can't believe you asked me that. Like, I ain't down. Blah blah. I was like, well, if you're who you say you are, then you have nothing to worry about. Then I'm just asking you a question, partner. But this person got so angry and defensive that I felt it in my gut. My stomach started burning, and this wasn't from the food. This was like stress. This person was stressing me out, and because they responded just like I knew they would, and I was like, it was like a shock to my system, more so because I was proving that this person was a negative energy and a negative vampire energy. And don't listen to anything I ever have to say, because it was a few things that we had done, and I'm like, this guy he's not listening to anything I'm saying. It's like, when I'm talking to him, it's going in one ear and out the other. And that's exactly what's happening, because he couldn't tell me exactly what had transpired. He could not tell me. He was making up stuff. And after the next day, I sent this guy a message. I was like, yo, you know what? We can be boys to the end, but you know what? I don't need to hang out with you anymore, and we definitely can't do business together. I'm sorry. That's it. You're a grown man, older than me. You know what you're doing. You know who you are. So have a good life. But that was an example that, it was a trip, because I'd known this person for quite a while, and it was a trait that I noticed about them, that, when they talk, they talk with so much authority and confidence, like they really know they know all, the be all, like they know it all, and think you're listening to them like, oh, that person is so smart. A lot of times that person is not as smart as you think they are. That's why it's important to listen. When I talk to people, man, I'm talking like I'm talking now. I talk with knowledge. Either I know something or I don't know something. If I don't know anything, I'm gonna say I don't know anything about that. I have no idea about that. I've never heard that before. This is what I do know from my experience, though, and this is what I know from my experience. I don't give advice. I just guide with tips, because I think I've been on this planet long enough to have learned quite a few things, and I'm still learning. Learning never stops. It evolves you to a better person. So I've gone over, I'm at 30 minutes. 30 minutes goes fast. So I hope this was a interesting and captivating podcast for you to listen to. It was pretty random, but it was on my mind, and I want to start doing more of these, random podcast journals. It helps me to de-stress, to talk about these things out loud, because someone else might be thinking the same thing. 7.8 billion people on the planet. Come on, we're all connected. I know someone's thinking the same thing. So, just my last point of guidance is that, next time someone important is in your life, listen to what they have to say. They're not necessarily looking for advice. A lot of times they just want to talk it out to somebody, and that somebody may be you, because you're the closest person to them, intimate. If you can hold secrets, I can hold secrets. I got secrets about people that I'll take to the grave. You know what I mean? Because it's nobody else's business, and maybe that's why people get that energy from me when they're talking to me, because I can hold a secret. It's not even a secret. It's just, it's just nobody else's business to talk about something that's unrelated, to something, unless the person like really upsets me. If they upset me, that means I'm not hanging out with them anymore, basically. So, next time your mate, spouse, whoever is talking, listen to them. When you listen to these, these political cats, rambling on, record the conversation, listen to it later, because a lot of them talk so fast, they're trying to lose you anyway, because they know the brain can't really process. Well, they don't know this, but the brain cannot process that much information as fast as people are talking. Most people aren't even listening. That's why you have to listen to the podcast again, because you're going to be like, wait, he said something. I do it all the time. I go, that person's talking way too fast. I'm going to have to listen to this again. So, hope this has helped you. It's helped me. And I'm going to have some tea. I'm going to go to bed. And I'm going to wake up, and I'm going to talk more about this Dr. Kathleen Desmasons. She's the author of Potatoes Not Prozac. Talks all about she's a addictive nutritionist. Talks about the sugar sensitive human beings that are on the planet right now, and that includes me. And we're going to talk about that because it's a big deal. Going to the holidays, going to the New Year's, I want everybody to just have a great New Year, have a great time on Gaia, Mother Earth. If it's easy for you to understand how connected we are, we're the plants that are on this earth are here for us because we are part of it. We're more like plants than we are anything else, and it shows that we're all connected. And so, the little guidance that we can give one another, little tidbits. I think every little tidbit helps. My story is not your story. Your story is not mine. But in the ether of the universe, in some record in the cosmos, those tidbits are added up and passed on. So, hope that makes sense to you, because I'm getting sleepy. And all right, this has been the Intelligent Human Voice Podcast. I'm calling this one the Kitchen Journal. Tomorrow might be like the shower journal or the the couch journal, wherever I feel like recording or I have a great thought. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to hit the record button on the Tascam and upload it as a podcast. That's what's up. I'm trying to get some folks on board who wants to be an affiliate. I love products. If your products suck, it's all bad. If your product is great, whoo, you've found someone who has been pumping people products for free. That's gonna stop. So if you got an awesome product or service, shoot me an email. If you listen to this podcast on Spreaker, you'll see the contact information. I believe it's ihvpnetwork@gmail.com. Let's do some business. Peace out.